How do we do things?
We are live. Oh my God. And we have Just a Walking Fish and Immutable Destiny. And we are going to trash talk Christians. Like Smokey loves that. Smokey Saint loves that. Did you see my trash talk that I sent him, Immutable?
I think so.
Yeah. I sent him trash
Anthony
talk.
wanted you to go into the live chat and to defend Bio.
Yeah, right. In that format, in that venue at night. I asked Smokey to set it up with us basically during the day. And we'll have a nice little talk, me and Tony, and Smokey can moderate. But I'm not going to jump into some crazy ass live chat at night. I just don't want to do it.
Yep.
I do not care. May have caught a bit of MathPig's channel. MathPig's channel? Oh, I don't think it was on MathPig. But I've been trying to talk to MathPig, but he has not responded to me. Immutable is on Discord.
I am on Discord.
Okay, Doubting Thomas. You know him?
What do you mean on Discord at the moment? I'm not in any servers, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Well, not in any live chats of any servers at the moment.
Okay. Anyway, so Tony's probably not going to stop in. So, what did we do this week? We never did go live with the John Maddox thing. We were looking at, let me share a screen.
Oh, God. Oh, God, let me have alcohol for this. God.
Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm not sure if I'm ready. I'm not ready.
You have admits.
Thought experiment. Well, we'll just listen to one of Maddox's run-on sentences just to get us going, to charge us up. Oh, no. Oh, no. You know what I did?
What did you do?
What?
Oh,
did you forget to share the audio?
I did. No, I don't even know how to stop it. Oh, my God. I thought I was on Zoom. Okay, wait a minute. Did I stop somebody or? Okay, come on. Stop screen. God.
That's the worst thing. I always forget to check that box too.
Oh God, I wish they would just do it. Default it to the last thing. But I think they do that for privacy. But I've been yelling at them in email to please set that to default,
or at least just have an option where you could.
Right.
Just like an always remember thing.
Yeah, but I think I think this was the run-on one. Well, this was the logic
accident. How is that not just a complete reciprocal of the design argument? Apparently, we're smart enough to know that something happened by chance, but we're not smart.
Oh, was that too late?
No, I don't think it finished through.
Yeah, but didn't it start a little bit earlier?
Yeah, it did.
He's talking about I didn't mark it. No, here we go. This is where it's.
Even though they agree it happening is so improbable, it borderlines miraculous, or as it is often called in the scientific papers, a frozen accident. But how is that not just a complete reciprocal of the design argument? Apparently, we're smart enough to know that something happened by chance, but we're not smart enough to know if it didn't. Doesn't that put you in the same position as someone who thinks the opposite? Except for the atheist, things that do appear designed have to be either categorically ignored or explained through elaborate just so stories. Beyond that, if all the things that we do consider designed all require natural elements and chemical processes, and we can determine if those processes are created by intelligence, and all forms of life are ultimately made out of the same materials, just utilized in a different way, how is the we never saw it be created actually a viable argument? If you go back far enough, there's always...
Did you parse that? It's hard to parse.
Breaking my brain.
I know.
There's so much there.
Well,
There's so much there.
His run-on sentences are incredible. But this whole video amounts to... they do this projection thing where they think... Okay, they know how it happened, right? So they will claim that they know how it happened. They have their biblical story and they know how it happened. So when we study abiogenesis, they think that we are making a claim that we know how it happened. And we just haven't told them yet or something, right? But that isn't how science works. We don't know how things happened 4.2 billion years ago. We're doing experiments to try to come up with reasonable pathways so we can understand the pathways, but we're not making any grand claim that we know exactly what happened. So, but I mean, you know, we all believe, we atheists all, because we have no choice, we believe that it happened naturally. We just don't know how. So, right? Does this make it sense?
The thing is, like, the way, like, Tony and Maddox argue this point of, like, oh, well, because we're directing experiments and because we're controlling certain parameters means that, like, we can't, like, means that it's invalid. That argument actually would also apply to, like, forensics as a field. And we wouldn't be able to, like, apprehend criminals.
Right.
Or so.
Yeah, we make, you know, we poke around until we figure out what we think happened, and then we make an inference that it happened. You can only infer history.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and even things like that we do know, like the Cambrian explosion. It's not like we have time machines to go back in time to see whether those things happen. In the same way, like, we don't have a time machine to check out, you know, who actually murdered somebody. What we do is we collect data and we form hypotheses, and we test those hypotheses based upon the abundance of data that's available to us, and we test it based upon how coherent. Like, okay, this theory explains A and B, but doesn't explain C. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Well, can we develop a theory that does explain A, B, and C all reasonably? That's kind of the way science works. I mean, it's just this idea, like, that controlled manipulation of things isn't a valid way of doing science. It's just kind of like, okay, well, have you ever taken a course in experimental design, or like any course about how to like build experiments to show something happens, like, and actually know that it's that thing instead of another thing?
Yeah. It just seems like they have just such a limited understanding of how all of this works. It's like Smokey's request today for a paper on basically a paper that shows him how consciousness is physical. I mean, he wants an evidence. You know, they want to see an evidence, which is a paper. They think that one paper is like, they think it's like this discrete thing called an evidence. And they refer to evidences. Don't you think there's something fucking wrong with these people? I mean,
does that make sense? Like, something that triggers me, like, annoyingly so, is when people use the word evidences.
Yeah.
It's like, there is no such thing as evidences.
Well, that's what I mean. That shows that they're kind of like, they don't quite get this, you know, what we're doing.
Yeah. It's like there's evidence for a claim. And that evidence can come in many different forms. Like, it's just a word that doesn't get pluralized, because one thing about science that's actually kind of unique, and that's a testament to, you know, it being an efficient process, is that we need more than one way to figure out. Like, if we have more than one way to find out, like, the age of the Earth, that's fantastic. Because now it means that we have separate models that make that make essentially a common prediction, being the age of the Earth, and they both happen to be in alignment with each other. And it makes it kind of difficult when people are saying, like, oh, well, people are just lying, or we're just, like, so wrong about the age of the Earth. Well, which way are you critiquing? Because, like, some of the ways are very solid. Like, molecular clocks are very well known, and we know how to measure, like, how quickly they change over time. And physics is just as strong, like, in terms of its theoretical backing and in terms of the measurements and things that are done with it. So it's like, what do you actually want to go into the science with it, or what are you actually challenging?
Yeah. And also, just I guess in reference to like Smokey saying he wants a paper that proves that consciousness is physical. Like, why would you assume? Why should the baseline assumption be that it's not physical? Because once you start putting something in metaphysics, it can't be studied. Like, that's where the burden of proof has to be. I think you should prove that it's not physical.
So the thing is, like, I can resonate with Smokey's point, but not in the way he wants me to. Okay. Because it's kind of like asking a person, after how many trees do you get a forest, right? Like, it's this type of process, like we're saying consciousness is something physical. I don't know if that statement is entirely coherent, but I do think it's coherent to say that consciousness is the result of like physical processes.
Yeah.
Like, it's this complex web of neural interactions that, in summation, like in grandiose, gives rise to this thing we call consciousness.
Yeah, but it still has its basis in like the physical body, right? Like, I think is Smokey's position like that you get your consciousness from like your soul or something?
So his position, if I'm not mistaken, is like there's the brain and it exists, and then there's the spirit, and then there's like the consciousness.
Yeah, substance dualism.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he means by the spirit. I don't know if he thinks like that God gives knowledge to the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit passes that like to the mind somehow.
Yeah, it's like Rene Descartes with substance dualism. It's just that's what Christians believe. They believe strongly in substance dualism, that there's a separate entity or ontological entity, which is the soul or the spirit mind, and then they believe in the physical brain, and somehow the two are connected. But when you quiz them about it, like when you ask them about Alzheimer's, I listened to you ask on some channel, Immutable, you were asking about Alzheimer's, I think. And I can't remember when that was. But anyway, when you start talking to them about brain damage, and when you have a certain kind of brain damage where you can only see the right hemisphere or the left hemisphere, I mean, how do they explain where is the soul? So they kind of believe, just like Descartes did, that there's like this channel between the brain, like somehow the brain is the speaker for the soul, like I mean, like a stereo speaker, like a Bose speaker, like somehow it's connected. And if you cut out, like if somebody loses the right half of their brain, and they can't see the left half of their visual field, then apparently the connection to the soul is cut or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so whack. I don't understand how they can put their pants on in the morning.
Lobotomy got rid of your connection, I guess.
What's that?
The way I've heard of the soul being like the way I've heard the soul being described, and that kind of makes sense to me, but I don't think it's plausible in many cases, of kind of like the soul just being kind of this like very like vacuous kind of like spirity, fluffy, ethereal thing that its properties essentially, it has like the properties of its host. So like every quality that belongs to the host is also in-housed by the soul. But like with Christian theology, I mean, it takes it a step further to say that like the soul can communicate things to the mind and can also deliver knowledge like that the person isn't even aware of to the person that has it, apparently.
Yeah, like last week I was trying to remember Jack Nicholson's name and I couldn't. How does the soul forget how does the soul forget the name of a band?
Yeah, I do think like from psychology and neuropsych, like that there is like this kind of notion of an internal self that exists within the mind, but I don't think that's the same thing they're talking about.
Is that typing loud when I do that?
No, I mean, Speed, what's your view of like what's called like the internal self, or
The internal self?
yeah?
It doesn't exist.
Oh, that's interesting.
You mean the sense of self that we have when we get up in the morning and we reboot?
Well, I mean, like the sense of self, like that occurs like within behavior modification. Like the brain, like will note, like, oh, okay, I need to do something different in order to get this or to get that or to get blah 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 blah.
Behavior modification.
Or behavioral adaptation, I guess.
I'm still not sure if I'm getting you. I have done behavior modification. You know, I mean, it's so. What are you saying exactly?
Okay. What do you think neurologically is happening when, like, your mind is thinking about the whole I problem?
You mean who I am?
Well, yeah, like the I need to not do this, or I need to, you know.
Oh, okay. You're basically, your sense of self, or I, is derived in the same way that I have a sense of the house that I live in or the car that I own. It's just that, you know, I have been around. Like, I have this continuous memory all the way back to when I was like 1 year old. And I do have memories from 1 year old and 2 years old and 3 years old. So I have this, you know, this constant sense of self. So I have these little notes that I've written in my brain that represent an I. But the truth of the matter is that I have nothing in common with my 9-year-old self. I have more in common with the 9-year-old down the street than I do with my 9-year-old self, you know, 60 years ago. So basically it's our relationship to any kind of a thing. We get this idea that we have an I. And when I think that I have to modify something, what I'm complaining about is that, like, I had, when I first started studying neuroscience, and I learned about the hippocampus and how the hippocampus, when you do something, it writes a little trace memory that kind of goes in. There's actually a linear index, like a line of brain cells, and they map to a space, like your room, or they'll map to time or whatever. And when you do something during the day, you will make a little mark in that. And then at night, it ends up being incorporated into your long-term memory, and I think via dreams. And that there's a lot of evidence that that's what happens, is you dream. You dream in order to basically wire it into your cortex. So the only things that are going to get wired in are things that you are conscious of for more than 30 seconds. So I had a problem. I was constantly putting the sugar spoon back in the sugar, and then after a while I'd pull it out and there'd be a big hard ball of sugar on the spoon. And so I wanted to change that behavior. And I tried many times to change that behavior, and I never could. Because when I was a kid, my mom insisted that we put the sugar spoon in the sugar bowl, right? Mm-hmm. So what I did is I put a little mnemonic on top of the sugar bowl, and every time I put sugar in my coffee, I had a spoon laying across the bowl, and I said, oh, okay, so I have to sit here for 30 seconds, and I have to be conscious of not putting the sugar spoon in the sugar bowl. And within 1 week, I changed that behavior, and that was 10 years ago. And wow. I still have that, you know, I said, so basically I learned a little bit about the hippocampus and brain wiring. And I learned that you had to be conscious for 30 seconds in order to put down a good, strong print, or it wouldn't incorporate at night into your, you know, cortical memory. So anyway, that's behavior modification. I don't see where that's a problem for the philosophical I.
This is why species dysphoria is so intriguing.
Why, what is?
Species dysphoria.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
I can imagine what it is.
So species dysphoria, and I'm not sure if this is people like just trying to get attention on the internet, but I think there are like some like legitimate cases of it. But what species dysphoria is like, so if a child, like at a very, very, very young age, like is abandoned, like in the middle of a forest, someone would say they're like raised by wolves or whatever. Over time, like that child will essentially act like a wolf.
Oh yeah.
Like in every possible aspect that it's able to. like to the point where like it has no, it doesn't have like the same types of qualities like we would associate like with normal human like behavior or normal human like just normal human like contact and communication. And so essentially like this mental state that the person has acquired is kind of the same as a wolf's, even though they're not the same thing.
Yeah, so that tells us that we get our sense of self not just from our memories of what we're doing, but by being reflected by people around us.
Yeah, and also the behaviors that we're taught, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just and that goes to my point about the immaterial. Like when Maddox asked me about the immaterial, or he asked me if logic was immaterial, and he wanted to insist that it was.
Mm-hmm.
So let me stop that screen and put that one up, because that's kind of an interesting point. The most of what happens in our brain happens because we move our body and we do things, and we get this feedback. Like I decide to pick this cup up, and at the same time I feel the cup, I feel my joints move. It lifts up, I feel the weight, I see it move. So there's this dynamical loop that, this feedback that creates your sense of mind, and that's where mind comes from. And all of this stuff, as you develop from a very little tiny baby, or even an embryo, you create this whole interactive sense of reality. And if the reality you are around is a pack of wolves or a pack of raccoons, oh, that would be great. I wish I had a little grandchild. I'd raise them with the raccoons.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that would be a great experiment. I had
that is so fucking immoral.
No, really, because they're so cute. I mean, it would be a good childhood.
Yeah, raised by wolves.
Raised by raccoons. I could write a paper. I would be famous. This is
not in the best ways.
I'm going to call my son and see if I can get him to have a kid.
At best, you'd be thought of as like the person who raised their kid with the chimpanzee.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a nice twist. I mean, nobody would have thought of this, right? It'd be like a first.
Probably not.
Nope.
Can't argue with that.
Let me remember to share the audio. This is kind of a fun little clip I want to play. This is Maddox complaining about me when me and him debated, and he asked me if logic, he said, well, logic is immaterial, right? And I said, no, it's physical.
Well, this is where the trash talkers like speed of sound come into the equation. Says he's in the Maddox delusional dilemma. He operates from a strict materialist perspective and thinks that logic is material rather than immaterial. So I'm not really sure which one of us is in a delusional dimension, speed of sound, but I would say more people would agree with me that logic is not a material component. You want to talk about that, Smokey? I know you have.
Yeah, if you.
More people would not agree with him. There's a lot of philosophers that are moving over to my side of the equation.
You believe
I would say
in materialism?
Go ahead.
I would say logic is immaterial, but that's just me.
I know, but we fight about that now, don't we?
You are by matter of fact delusional. I'm sorry. No. I'm not trying to be obtuse about it, but it's just a nature of fact. And if you spent 5 minutes Googling the scientific evidence, actual scientific evidence of near-death experiences, you would realize that naturalism is just false. Materialism is just false. There is something else out there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
At the very least, there's better arguments than NDEs.
No.
Smokey, I know you love abio, and I am so wanting to ask you about certain chemical reactions because I know you're just going to be able to blow me away.
I went on and Googled near-death experience, but I did it on Google Scholar, and I looked for papers, and there was precisely one paper that is reported positively on that, and that was by, I think it's like a Dr. Long or something. He wrote a book about it, and he did I don't know if he had a near-death experience. I think he had one himself, and he does TEDx talks. And he is the only one that claims that there's something positive. But a whole bunch of other surgeons apparently put notes on top of cabinets and stuff to see if their patients, if they ever, if their heart ever stopped on the operating table, if they could read the note, and none of them could. So all the testing of near-death experiences, and Smokey says, well, how the hell? There was a way he worded it that indicated what is wrong with his idea. He said they were able to tell you exactly what happened when they were resuscitated. And it's, wait a minute, if they're telling you what happened, that means they're conscious while they're telling you, and they're alive now, right? So obviously they're not telling you while they're brain dead. But the way he worded it, it was almost like they had found consciousness while they were dead. And if you listen to these guys, they constantly make that mistake. The patient comes back, the patient is alive, and he's, he just had breakfast, and he tells them, oh, I was conscious while I was dead. Well, you don't know anything about your past consciousness at all. All you know is what's going on right now. And you cannot make an affirmative statement about what you were conscious of 200 milliseconds ago, let alone, 3 days ago. So, but when you think about it, and we can fight about that, Immutable, but I'm going to do a video about that. There's a way to hash that out and make people realize that what they think they were conscious of, they were not conscious of. They are conscious of it now, in the moment. And as soon as you say, now, the moment, go ahead.
You're going to make a great solipsist. Just want you to know that.
I have hashed out solipsism and gotten rid of that crap too. Just such, oh my God. Philosophers have I call it philosyphilis. They have so much crap that they've accumulated about the mind that I'm surprised that they can even breathe. It's just absolutely horrible, but I got to do some work on that. Anyway, so like there's a little gem at 3235. Okay, so they're talking about materialism. You want to play it out here so we can get the gist of it, because
sure.
they say something remarkable.
I mean, even in quantum physics, we know that there's something else out there. So
we do.
You are just being scientifically illiterate, and you're also just being delusional.
Smokey, he just told you to read a book.
Read a book.
Oh, I'm in chat. I'm in chat during this. So.
Oh my God.
I told Smokey to read a book.
That's radical. That's funny. Is that the atheist get out? Like go read a book. Like you're clearly quoting things from books, but go read a book. Is that atheist intelligence right there?
Well, did you have you seen my video on Atheist Fantasyland Projection Complex?
No,
yes,
I have
Matt,
not. It just sounds like a good watch.
So I just I did one that a couple days ago, and talked about I wonder what some common symptoms are of Atheist Fantasyland Projection Complex. So I did 6 of them. I'm actually working on some more. I'm gonna do some more videos on. And then I did another one on 4 ways to trigger an atheist.
I like stuff like that.
It's so I'm actually putting together another list of
bro. I look forward to that.
Additional symptoms of a triggered atheist who has Atheist Fantasyland Projection Complex.
It's coming up.
I look forward to that.
And it's actually kind of funny, man. The comments I've been getting, it's so ironic, man. They are literally fulfilling the different symptoms of that I talk about in the video. And in the comment section, it's congratulations. I'm cracking up inside. Congratulations on literally doing exactly what I said you were going to do. It's so funny.
It's so amusing.
It's funny to be able to make those predictions, right?
I know.
What's that?
It's so amusing that Maddox thinks now he's an expert on psychology.
Yeah.
Because he invented a symptom
that
he displays more strongly than anybody else does.
Right. Yeah, it's his Atheist Fantasyland projection thing was pretty bad. It was, oh my God.
It's just, if we were to watch that video and you were to listen to the points and actually listen to him,
right,
you'd be like, huh. Is this like Maddox's soul trying to tell him to just call it quits, or what is this here?
Oh, right here. Okay, they're talking about materialism, and they're talking about, you know, I said that logic had to be material, right? So
There's something more to quantum physics. Oh boy.
So he's talking about materialism, and then he comes up with this. So just listen to this. Where's the?
But yeah, the point you were making on the you know, the immaterial. I'm like, a basic Google search will find that it's all agreed that light is immaterial. It is mass. It is mass.
There it is.
Oh boy.
So he thinks that when I was talking about materialism, I was talking about matter. You know, it's like that's what he thinks materialism is, or physicalism is that there can only be matter. There can't be energy.
Okay, Maddox. Do you not know what a photon is?
Yeah, he's just, oh my god, but it's like he went to that. I mean,
any force.
That shows you the simplicity of this man's mind. I mean, the absolute simplicity. It's just like, oh my god, I don't know where he goes next.
That's less. Like
I would challenge speed of sound of gravity to find me one singular reputable quantum physicist that agrees with his stance of naturalism, and I will retract my statement.
So what the hell? So then he thinks I'm going to be Googling it.
It's a strong challenge, my friend. Well, I make the same. I postulate the same.
If that's the standard we're going with, I want you to find me a physicist who shares the same perspective about light that Maddox does.
And the flood and the firmament and
yeah, or just the light claim for now. That light is immaterial.
Yeah.
Because that's just, oh man, it's so stupid. It's just,
yeah.
You're aware that, like, if that were true, the field of optics wouldn't exist.
What does he even mean by something more to quantum mechanics? Like, does he think, you know, the definition of the hidden God, whenever God's not, or whenever you're not observing the particle, then God's like, all right, I'm gonna make it a wave.
He's referring to the measurement problem.
Yeah, they're talking about.
Yeah. So he's trying to take it to this point where, because like measurements cause the wave function to collapse, which I would call it quantization, I wouldn't call it measurement.
Yeah.
That because measurement causes the wave function to collapse, therefore there's something more than material than just, you know, there's something more to material than material. Which it's like, no, like the wave function collapses because when you shine light on it, that particle has to absorb light and choose a state or collapse towards one state. And then once it emits a photon, it enters into superposition once more.
Yeah, philosophically, okay, physicalists and materialists had never thought that it's just, you know, stuff matters since probably Aristotle, you know. So, I mean, for thousands of years, it just shows the weakness and an understanding of what physicalism is all about. And,
I mean, with Aristotle, like, he thought, like, he had a notion of, like, the elements, so he thought the nature of things, like, something had a fiery nature or earthy nature or aquatic nature or
right, because they had no concept of atoms and chemistry and what was in it, so they thought that things had a nature. Sean Carroll has a YouTube site, and I was watching a video today from him. He does a really good job of explaining the change in our mindset from Aristotle through Newton and all the way up. It's really, I forget what it's called. Do you remember the name of that?
It's like the biggest ideas in the universe or something like that.
Yes, yeah, the biggest ideas. I was watching that today. But anyway, so this is where I found Smokey Saint, and I reached out to him on email and I said, let's have a conversation, and that's where our relationship started. So he didn't know me at this point. He just had Maddox's stupid, you know, bullshit with logic being immaterial. Well, Maddox wanted to lead me down a rhetorical alley, blind alley, where he could say, well, it's immaterial, so a mind must have done it. you know. So he was trying to lead me into saying, you know, his big theme, his only theme, which is that it's, you know, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Therefore, God did it. Had to have an intelligence do it. Anyway.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. Somehow they're going back to abiogenesis now.
Yeah, I wanted to. Let's see here. I wanted to do this first. Channel videos. Okay, so I want to stop that screen. Oh, the raccoons are invading. Oh my God. Let's see. So I'm going to share another screen, and I'm going to share the whole screen. I got a standing and poop. Is that going to dox me? Yes, it is. We'll try not to do that. So I just wanted to show you the books that what's his name released today or yesterday? Released.
Oh, he did. Okay, so Maddox did upload new papers.
Oh, he did today?
I think so, yes.
Oh, we got to check that out. We'll check that out right away. Anyway, so this is, let's see, this is July 9th, Standing for Truth, Why Human Evolution is False. So which one is this? Oh, no, that's not the one. Mystery of Life's Horde. Okay, he released a book last week, and then he released one. Let's see. Okay, this one. So he released this last week, and that's the one I did the tinfoil hat video on, basically. Oh, it's available on Kindle. Oh, my God. Wow. Read now? I guess.
Yep.
Read, yeah. I don't want to read it now. Anyway, so he released that one from last week, right?
Yep.
And and then he released a new one yesterday. And I bought it for
books faster than I'm putting out videos.
Yeah. He released 2 in 1 week. So he's got this new one, which he claims it's like 300 pages or 200 pages. So the other one was 100 pages. This one is 200 pages.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Where
well, the first one was made simple, you know, it was for idiots like him. And this one is where he does all of his poop. I mean, just all of his, you know, bad ideas. He's got the whole thing, I think, laid out here. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and it goes up to 190 pages. Resources. He told me there's a whole bunch of links in this too, but you can't see them on the preview. So
there's links inside the book.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what he's doing. Oh God. Fuck
yeah. He edited a trimmed down version, and he released that last week, and then he released this.
Oh.
So, what is
okay,
this?
so it's part of the same book. All right, that a little more reassuring.
Yeah, I think it's the same book, and then he has the same back page for this one. So, I don't know if this is available on Kindle yet. Paperback, see all formats and editions. Nope, just paperback so far. So it'll be a week or so before he releases this, and I think the price went up to. He told me it was going to go up to $20 because I bought the black and white version of it. Well, no, the color version, it's $28 they're charging for this color version. So
really,
yeah. And here is the book. This is. Let me see. God, is this the full version? What the hell? Where's the contents on this thing? Yeah, I think this might be the full version I just bought. What do you tell? I mean, is there not a way to? What kind of reader is this? I got to go to Kindle and do it. Oh, he's got a lot of pictures. Oh, look at that. Is that an alien?
Formatting.
Is that an alien? What is that?
Maybe that was Standing for Truth as a child.
Oh, yeah. That does make sense.
Oh, apparently, according to Standing, that's not his book. That's Matt's.
Oh, this is Matt.
That's Matt's.
Oh, he's here.
Okay, so that's how they put out 2 books in 2 weeks. Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay, Standing, you owe me not only $20 for the first book I bought, and $8 for the second book, and $4 for the Kindle version, which is $32, but you now owe me, I think, about $100 for advertising your book. Okay? So I'll expect a check for $132.
Did he say he would give you his book?
Huh? No.
Did he say he would?
He never offered it for free. In fact, I asked him for a text page of the link so that I didn't have to type them in. And he told me to go take a flying fuck at a rolling donut, I think. Is what he told me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty much. He just said no. You know, I mean, he didn't elaborate. Okay, he's got all kinds of references, I guess. To get the end of it. Anyway, this is going to be fun. We're going to go through that in great detail at a later date because this is all wrong in one place. And what does Standing say here? Let's see. Where is Standing?
He's in the private chat.
He's in the chat.
Or not the private chat.
Yeah, he is. Okay, that's not Matt Books. Okay.
He said that, yeah, that's Matt's book. You already saw it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Standing. Did I call you an idiot by accident? I would never. I mean, I have the utmost respect for your intellect and your knowledge of genetics. You know that. Prior one was my. Okay, so if that prior one was yours, what do we got here? I have two. Oh, the Made Easy and the full version. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about. Did I just buy Matt's book?
I always love y'all's banter. It's really funny.
I'm just really, let's see. Okay, I'm saying that the one you're currently looking at, the Young Earth creation model, is Matt's. Damn it. How did I? Oh, I bought that. I ordered both of them. I ordered Matt's and the other one. Okay, so I haven't found.
I'm running out of money, but I can afford to buy $30 books.
So, Standing, where is your new book? I'm trying to find your new book.
His new one is apparently the Why Evolution is False, or Why Human Evolution is False.
Okay. Yeah, but is this okay? This is and I bought that one too. So that is the new one, and then the one from last week. So I bought Raw Matt's book too, and this one is not available in Kindle yet. I was so excited. I got one book and a couple days ago, and I'm going to get two more books from Standing in the next 2 days, or from Raw Matt and Standing. So that will be fun. So I wanted to. Remember, we reviewed this video a long time ago, and with Shadow. So, well, let's see. God. Am I on that one? Yes. So I think I'm up. But we heard this.
That one is the black and white version, Speedy.
Because I was
author price. You should love me. Oh God.
I wasn't going to pay $28 for that goddamn color version. I already paid $20 for your crappy made simple version. And you didn't tell me that you were coming out with a new version in a week, or I would have waited.
You should have bought the color version.
I don't want the... Why?
Because color just makes things so much more interesting and not bland.
We got... I'm not sure. No, I can't do it right now. But anyway, we'll do it later. So anyway, this is her baby nose thing. We listened to that one, right?
Oh, God.
And then I went and found a whole bunch of new ones.
Get the color glossy version. You'll love it, I promise. Oh, Lord. If you're sharing something, it is not.
What's that?
If you're sharing something, it is not coming across very well.
Oh, really?
Did you forget to share audio?
No, did I forget to share audio? Why didn't you tell me?
Because I thought you were competent.
I'm not competent. No one's ever accused me of being... Oh, I remember I was on another screen. Okay, live stream. You know, I'm calling it. If you're my producer, Immutable.
Well, I'm not responsible for your stupidity.
I have cat hair in my mouse.
Well,
Chair. Now tell me if you hear this, because it's very important.
To, like, you know, the parents eating their babies.
Well, you know, it's something to me that
Can you hear it?
I don't think I will ever.
yeah.
I honestly don't think that any rational human can ever overcome this ultimate argument, in my opinion. Which
Because
is,
Maddox is now the authority on
when
rationality.
you actually contemplate what the amount of computation that is occurring for physical action to occur, right? Whether it be in an animal or in a human. When you really think about like the processing, the visual information processing and the depth perception, all of the different calculations that are having to occur in order for you to walk, right? Or grasp something, the amount of computation ability that's required for those processes that we take for granted to occur is nuts.
It's phenomenal.
It
So,
goes to a
I
whole
just have
different
one
level.
question.
Which
Was
one?
this another revelation he had while driving Uber?
I think he was walking down the stairs when he had this revelation, because I think he doesn't know where his feet are. I think that's coming up. Is that 121?
Okay. Did this happen before or after he hit his head after falling on a flight of stairs?
I think it must have been after.
What?
Or, no, it was during.
Levels that our supercomputers could not, at least currently, could not replicate. Right. And we take it for granted. I mean, think about the individual processes that are being executed in order. Like right now, I am waving my finger, right?
Crazy.
The amount of signals and on the molecular level that are being processed or sent, processed, and then all of the synchronicity that's happening as I'm curling my finger.
Synchronicity.
Right? Literally millions of muscle cells, right, that are working in synchronicity with all these other components in order for me to make a fist, right? Or you're walking upstairs. The other day, before I really started thinking about this, was the other day I was taking some stuff to a friend. I was carrying a case of water up the stairs to their apartment, right? And about halfway up, I had this realization that, I have never seen where my feet are going because I'm carrying this giant case of water. And
John doesn't know where his feet are. He's shocked that
Apparently, like just like medial things in life will just like blow him away
well, that's
for like
kind of
apparently
cool.
no reason.
Yeah, that's kind of I don't know. That's kind of blessed. You know, you got to his childlike approach to the world is
It is, but it's just it
I
is.
hate to
But the thing
criticize
is,
that.
like, what's concerning me is like how frequent these events are. How frequent these events are.
right.
Because he's described like 5 of these events now, and it's like, are things going okay in your life, John? Are there things we should know about? Because yeah, everybody has one of those moments now and then, but like apparently you're having them like every other month.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't want to criticize her for that because that's childlike, you know, delight. But here's the problem. Okay. When you're a child and you see a flower and you say, oh my God, it's so wonderful. I just had this realization. But when you're an adult and you want to understand something like how you walk, how your feet work, how you know where your feet are when you're not looking at them, you go get a book and you read about it, as far as I'm concerned. But now John bypasses the whole get a book and read about it part, and he just goes on to his wondrous, you know, conclusion, you know, instead of reading a book. Because now the interesting thing about walking and moving your muscles and all of that stuff is, do you know a little bit about that, Immutable?
I mean, a lot of it's like not active,
tensors,
like
yeah,
a lot of it isn't active contemplation,
anyway,
like on the part of the brain.
Anyway, in a previous video, Matt was talking. He wanted to say cerebral cortex, but he said the cerebellum. Well, actually, there's a big chunk of like 30 what is that? 30 million neurons in the back of your head. That's the cerebellum. And there is a tensor calculus computer in that thing. And it's amazing. And that's how you basically coordinate your movements. And if that goes to hell, you end up, you know, bumping into things and being real jerky and all that stuff. But anyway, but what I'm complaining about here is that Maddox, you know, he gets this wondrous thing and he says, oh my God, God must have designed it. But God is not walking your feet right now. God is not intelligently interfering. God is not doing the work that his brain is doing when he's going up the stairs. So I see a disconnect here in their ideas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because he's saying, oh my God, our greatest supercomputer can't do this, yet this little half a pound of flesh in the back of your brain, the cerebellum, is doing that. And it's doing it without intervention from any intelligence. So, but God must have designed it. But how did God design it when you used to be just a zygote that came out of that was in your mama, and you turned into this, you know, massive computer? So, I can't understand how they're not more in awe of that, which happens completely without intelligent design, which happens with chemistry and random chance and molecules bumping into each other. That's how you go from zygote to fully functioning John Maddox. Of course, that's a low bar, isn't it?
Yeah, and also, you know, if our brain's a supercomputer, well, you also have like amoebas with stimulus and response. Like, it's not that, in my opinion at least, it's not that hard to see how something like that could develop, because, you know, you have like platyhelminths, which have a very, very basic nervous system, if anything, and then you start to see like cephalization and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so there are two axes here. If you were to graph it out, okay, there's the historical evolutionary axes, you know, that would be the X, and then there's the Y, which is where you develop from one cell into a fully functioning human being. So you see what I mean? So there's two axes to consider in this conversation, and the one that happens in the Y direction, from zygote to human, fully functioning human being, has no intelligent design at all. It's random molecules bumping into each other, and they don't deny that. So I don't understand, if they don't deny that, how they can deny the historical aspect. I feel like drawing a picture, but anyway, there are gems in this thing. John doesn't know where his feet are. So let's see. Okay, he was walking. I'm not sure how much further that. Where are we? 121.
I am being able to go up these stairs without falling. Now, for humans, you know, we do that kind of stuff all the time and don't even think about it, right? But when you actually think about the processing that's going on, without looking, my brain was being able to process exactly where to put my feet, the depth, all those things. And it was also accounting for the modification to my center of gravity based on the fact that I was now carrying a however heavy that case of water was, right? Now,
was it water, John?
Some of the stuff might seem boring to a lot of folks, but when you really think about that, something as simple as going up a flight of stairs carrying a case of water, the sheer number of variables that are now different than the normal scenario of just walking around is nuts in terms of what's having to be calculated. Same thing, you flip around, you come back down. It's the exact same logic applies. You're now in a different scenario.
I don't know if I'm going to miss anything, but I'm going to go ahead to autism. Okay. Or do you want to listen through?
No, I'm fine with anything.
Okay.
And I believe the most recent one I saw, I think it was about like round 1 in 50 now.
Pause.
Yeah. You know, John, I'm not a business major, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Someone tells me that, like, it might behoove people, like, to look while they're walking, especially when they're carrying stuff. Because what I just heard makes it sound like you'd be prone to, like, a head injury or something like that.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Anyway.
But maybe you can explain to me why the, you know, financial investment of not looking at stairs while walking on them is a good thing.
Yeah, this autism party's talking about how This is something that's standing for truth, and I just flagged this one because there's something that people need to know about autism. We'll get to it in a minute.
I believe the most recent one I saw, I think it was about like right around 1 in 50 now. Let's see, what is the...
There used to be 1 in 150 people that were diagnosed with autism, and now it's 1 in 50. But when I looked into the statistics, there was an article that pointed out that among primarily white, fairly wealthy, middle-class Americans, the numbers for autism seem to be rapidly going up. And the reason for that is that they actually check on children at 3 years old, and we're finding more autism because we're looking.
Yeah,
Well,
there's no increase.
That, I mean, and the point that's also being made is that, you know, the level of screening technology that's been developed to detect this kind of thing is also improved.
Yeah, it detects a lot more right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think people knew what autism was or even understood, like, that there was a thing called autism, like, in the 1940s and 1950s.
Yeah,
So, of course, you run into...
Oh, I was just gonna say, the one time I was on John Maddox's channel, Sal Cordova was having that, like, Mueller's Limit lecture thing, and Sal had to step away, and me and John started talking, and he brought up, like, autism as an example of genetic entropy, and he seemed so taken aback by the fact that I was like, well, we do have better screening technology. Like, that's
right.
Probably the majority of that increase, and also just mental health, like, better mental health awareness in general. You know?
Right. And proof for that is in basically other countries and other ethnicities, particularly Spanish American or Mexican American, or what the hell, Latino people, the rate is still 1 in 50. So they're not, for some reason, they're only testing a certain class of people, and that is leading to a real skewed statistic.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is cancer going up. That's our other proof of genetic entropy. Well, for one thing, we're living older, but when I looked at cancer rates, the rate of prostate and lung cancer has fell precipitously since 1990. So all cancer and the other cancers are flat right now. They're not going up. They're not going down. But lung cancer and prostate cancer, for some reason, have just really taken a dive. And this isn't death. This is diagnosis of cancer.
Yeah.
So we peaked for cancer in 1990. And right around 1990, that was right after we got control of our emissions from automobiles and we quit smoking. So, you know, it's environmental. So what they're telling us that cancer is increasing, it's bullshit. Alzheimer's and dementia, that's going up because we are living longer than ever. And when you don't use your mind and you live into your 80s, you are going to get dementia. It's just naturally occurs. So anyway, so I just wanted to point that part out. I'm not sure what JB, it's GB, George Bond. He talks about a bird.
Would survive. There'd be cascade failures like in a system. Sorry, George, go ahead.
I was just going to add, have you guys ever, I'm a bird fancier and I've bred a number of different species of birds, but I'm amazed at the nest building ability of some of these birds. I've watched swallows where they actually collect the right constituent of mud or clay with the right water content in it to make it stick to the surface, and they have to, I guess, make sure that it's strong enough. Otherwise that nest is just going to fall and the eggs and the babies die. So, and there are examples of even more intricate designs of some of the African birds where they weave specific grass into.
Yeah, I don't know why I flagged that one, but
I mean,
but I thought this one was great. I think maybe we listened to this before.
That's a great point, actually. I mean, it just goes to show how much design is in nature and just all the things that these animals can do without their parents, you know? I mean, you can just look at dogs and just see some of their like natural instincts and all that kind of stuff. And well, they didn't learn it. What if you get a puppy? It gets separated from its mom at like what is it, like 8 weeks, 16 weeks or something like that, you know, they still act like a dog. They're no different.
Really?
Like, I was watching this really cute
Do
video
they?
of a baby husky that was
Oh,
howling.
man.
Well, it was adopted before its mother could actually teach it to howl. Because it was like 8 weeks old. How did it learn to howl?
How does that? Yeah.
This is a natural instinct that is born into them based on all the information that God put into them.
So wait. It's a natural instinct that has to be learned because the animals aren't smart enough to learn it instinctually, and God has to teach. What?
I don't know. God put it into them instinctually. They can't learn it from their mom, but they could learn it from their mom if they were with their mom. I don't know what she's saying. This lady is pretty confused. But I think we listened to that one before. That was like that's like Shadow Dancer's greatest hits, you know? It's pretty cool. So I think let's see, I don't know what NPM is. So dogs howl. So yeah. So we'll just launch right. We'll let her run until NPM happens.
And why don't cats howl?
And then that gets me thinking about as if genetics doesn't have to be precise enough already, just regarding proteins and directing the proteins to do what they need to do. Imagine how precise it has to be for genetics to be the source of the intelligence in the mind, because there's such a precision to the mind.
It has to be.
Oh my gosh.
What?
This is how they think.
But like even in creation, it's still stored in your genetics.
Yeah.
Like your genome is still responsible for your like phenotype, right?
Yeah.
What?
Do you think that just introducing God into this scenario just makes this phenomenon disappear?
Yeah, they don't have to think about it.
You see, God teaches the cats to not howl.
Yep, and
I know. Yeah. It's not that like some of the neural wiring there actually prevents cats from howling. No. It's God constantly reminding them not to behave like a dog and not to howl.
Yeah. NPM on that. Oh, Nicholas, Proclaimer of the Messiah. That's why I marked that one, because that was his gem.
Of the animal that's inborn, and there must be some exponential greater level of precision required in the genetics for the mind to go that direction.
Yeah.
That's actually a great point.
God is absolutely baffling.
Just
because you made
I'm telling you, these live streams that they do late at night are just full of gems. I mean, it's just like
I know, it's
incredible.
Think about how much we can train these animals, you know. Oh, they will never ever get to the level of humans. Never. We've never seen it. And yet they still have a level of intelligence.
Dogs can never become like humans and, you know, like start talking about philosophy and creationism. Apparently we can't train dogs up to be good philosophers. I guess is what she's saying. Is that?
Which shows an intelligent designer. Actually, even plants. If you look at plants, and they're very innate.
It shows an intelligent designer because things are complicated. Didn't you know? Oh my gosh! Why didn't we all think of this earlier?
I got a raccoon staring at me in the window.
He knows.
Can you guys fill some dead air space for 1 minute?
Yeah, sure. You got to feed the raccoon.
I gotta.
Oh boy.
I got little ones.
You know, it's almost like howling and social behavior, and especially nest building, are directly related to reproductive success, because the better you can build a nest, the better chance your offspring have of surviving.
Yep.
One of my raccoons just howled at me.
Really? Maybe it's a dog.
And another one meowed.
Oh my god.
That's horrible. Okay, so we're going on to plant components now.
Some of the components inside of plants are, I mean, just like so many aspects of biology in general, but I mean, the precision measuring devices, for example, that exist inside of plants
Oh, this is good.
And the components
this is good.
that enabled the automated processes to occur. To me, what gets me about the whole, oh, are they conscious? Are they not conscious? You know, all those different pieces. I'm like, okay, you idiots. If you walked into a fully automated factory.
My name is John Maddox.
Like, wow, look at all these
startup company that failed miserably after a few years, and I'm about to tell you all why your neuroscience is bad and why obviously these things are intelligent.
Yeah. You know, robot arms, they're doing all this cool stuff and ending up and creating this product, right? You would never, ever
in any other context
that came into existence without probably a boatload of very smart people working in synchronicity to be able to devise all of the different parts that are now able to be execute this process.
I know.
Oh,
it's
good.
Almost.
And to me, when
John,
Oh, okay. Here's the thing, John. It's almost like the analogy you proposed and the way you framed it makes it so that we can know that an intelligent agent was involved because you said intelligent agents were involved in the production of the process.
Yep.
And so, of course, there's a designer. Please provide a similar argument for DNA.
Yeah. Remember we figured out the other day that he doesn't understand the puddle argument?
Nope.
Didn't get that either. There's a really wonderful part coming up, and I shouldn't have. It's just precious.
Look at all those pieces that are happening in biology. I'm like, okay, let's take this from the micro to the macro level. And you would be staring at the most complicated machinery you have ever seen if you took it from molecular size to a macro one that you can, truly visualize. And ignore that. So, sorry, George, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine this simple seed. What tells the roots to grow down and
what? Wait.
Yeah.
Do you think that the vascular system of a tree is going to tell its roots to grow up for some reason?
Okay, let's just do this one more time.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine this simple seed. What tells the roots to grow down and the stem to grow up? Gravity is downward, so something's telling that seed to send the root system in a downwards direction and the stem in the upwards direction. So, how does this...
I'm going to have a stroke.
I'm not an ornithology. I'm not an ornithology expert by any means, but here's an idea. It might be that the vascular system of the roots might be able to sense that there's a higher concentration of minerals further down in the ground than further up where the roots have already been and have been suctioning off the minerals.
Yeah. And the ones with the roots that grow up aren't going to pass on their dumbass genes.
No.
So that's what we're dealing with here. These rocket scientists are the ones that are so sure of themselves and so sure that we're idiots. That's just absolutely amazing.
I'm so stunned by the question. It's like, what? Wow. Roots grow down instead of up, therefore God. Wow. Holy hell.
Yeah. Yeah, you get and we couldn't design a seed with the roots that grow down. I mean, if we had all of our best supercomputers, we couldn't get the roots to grow down, right?
They would just grow up because
they just grow up. Because abiogenesis or whatever.
Seed know how to do that.
How does a seed know how to do that?
I never thought about that. Because
if
we go by evolution,
Shadow Dancer never thought about that.
I never thought of that. I never knew that seed had little brains and just little mouths that they kept secret from us, and they could just talk to each other.
Yeah,
because apparently now that's a thing.
Okay, I'm worried now that you're going to grow a conscience in the middle of this because we're being pretty hard on these people. Are you immutable? Are you going to suddenly grow a conscience in the middle of our Saturday Night at the Atheist like you did last time? It was amazing.
I'm not even getting warmed up.
Okay, good.
I'm barely there.
Because we don't need your stinking conscience. Okay.
and they would all be underground.
John's coming up.
Well, and
because
that's
gravity
kind
would
of
push
thing
it down.
that oh well, we found the gene that controls XYZ. It evolved, and it's like okay,
It
cool.
evolved.
If it didn't exist prior to its evolution,
How did it evolve?
how do you actually conclude that it evolved into this?
Where did it get its information?
Play that again.
Okay, that's good. Where is it? It's damn gene.
If we go by evolution, then they would all be. If we go by evolution,
Oh, wait a
then they
minute.
would all be underground.
Shit.
Well, and
Because
that's
gravity
kind
would
of
push it
thing
down.
that oh well, we found the gene that controls XYZ. It evolved, and it's like okay, cool. If it didn't exist prior to its evolution, how do you actually conclude that it evolved into this?
Where did it get its
Okay.
information?
So this is actually like a really important point.
Yep.
I don't know how John thinks about genes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just thinks that God like thinks about things and then genes just like come into existence. Or because the thing is, it's funny, John, genes can change their function over the course of evolutionary time. And when you have things like duplication events and a lot of mutations, you can have new activities for genes. So it could be that this gene that's responsible for telling the plant to go up was originally just keeping track of the relative amounts of nutrients. So, some protein that was keeping track of the levels of iron or the levels of calcium or something like that within the cellular environment. But so it's why is it not possible that this function could have arisen from a previous gene that had a very similar function?
Well, he thinks that. Okay, so they know that the gene doesn't have enough information and to do all the miraculous things that they believe. So they think all of these regulatory elements and ALUs and RNAs and all of that gather together, and they were intelligently designed to create this like blueprint for whatever you're looking at. It creates this complicated blueprint which had to be intelligently designed. So he views it as some kind of elaborate machine that was like really cleverly designed by a super intelligence. That's got to be it, because play one more time here.
If we go by evolution, then they would all be underground.
Well, and that's
gravity
kind
would
of
push
thing
it down.
that, oh well, we found the gene that controls XYZ. It evolved, and it's like okay, cool. If it didn't exist prior to its evolution, how do you actually conclude that
it didn't exist prior to its evolution? What the? I don't know what to make of that. It's just like that is a childlike simplicity that it just baffles me. Like he thinks the gene, or like there's a gene that grows the roots down and grows the stem up, that does some sort of like it's a blueprint. What do you think?
That's honestly, yeah, that sounds quite accurate.
That it's kind of the layman's idea of what the genome is that it's a blueprint for creating a body. Yeah. And it doesn't work that way at all. It's a
like concentration differences depend on which way something goes.
It's these tiny little these little machines. Like they built these robots that behaved like ants, and they were able to program them with about 20 little functions, and the functions all work together to create this emergent phenomena, that looked like it was intelligent, but it really wasn't. It was just 20 little atoms of moving like, and they don't get that. They don't get that the basically an organism blossoms or blooms out of these very simple little steps that are micro nano machines or whatever. I don't know how the hell to explain it. Anyway, that's
that it evolved.
See what else happens here.
Where did it get its information? Like just I want them to tell me where they get their information. Like, just
information.
Information doesn't create itself.
Well, that's part of the reason there's so much desperation to somehow avoid and claim it is nothing but analogy.
Desperation. We're so desperate, John. I mean, God, you know, these when these guys debate a PhD scientist, we ought to send them this video, the PhD scientist, so they know what they're dealing with.
To say that there is information in your DNA, and it's like, okay, people will joke about this, you know, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims,
it's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck. You know,
and the real.
You see how Shadow Dancer figured that out before he actually finished saying it?
I have faith in her now.
I do.
Please don't disappoint me, Shadow Dancer. Please.
How did that happen? Did her mom teach her that, or did God?
I don't know.
Did God put that into her DNA?
Did a howling dog's soul just like transfer the information somehow, or what happened?
Okay, I think we're going to temporal control. Okay, desperation to analogy. So let's see if John.
And the real brain buster is
brainbuster.
Explain in evolutionary sense the metamorphic process.
Oh my God. It's my twisted sister.
That's just how do you explain that in an evolutionary sense?
How? You can't.
You can't.
No, and especially now that as we're discovering more and more of the temporal. You guys have heard me go on tangents about this before, but the temporal control factors that are
backdoors,
plain as day, required just for embryos to develop. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how many times I have to say this until it gets to your thick skull. If a time factor has to be accounted for in order for the stupid thing to grow, how do you not have to know why this is needed and have it activate in order for it to grow? Like, in
what?
He's talking about you have to have foreknowledge in order to grow fingers, because you need to have the temporal control, which goes back to my 2 axes, remember? The developmental axes, they know that it comes from a zygote, and just chemicals do that temporal control in the embryo to make things fire at certain times. And he's also talking about his ribosomal pausing, which he's really stuck on. So, but let's see where he goes.
It's like, oh, I need to have a timer set to turn on this component to build this. Like, in what universe would it make logical sense to not have to have known that you needed to have the switch turn on at this moment in order for the end product to be built? And have to...
Yeah. What do you think? My goodness.
Does he think that this isn't stored in the genome? Like, does he think that it's metaphysical, like how an embryo knows how to start growing an arm?
That's what I mean. He's conflating evolution, the one axis, with the other. You know, the developmental axis. And he's saying that, you know, but then if you were to quiz him on it, he would say, "Oh, it's all planned in the genes. That is, you know, it's all carefully planned out so that everything fires at the right time." So God thought in advance how he was going to grow a finger, and he set a timer so that, you know, the red Hox genes turned on at the right time. It's like incredible. There are some good parts coming up. I mean, it gets. I think does it get better?
Have this is what I want to have happen, right? And they say, oh, because there's no consciousness, therefore it didn't happen, and it just evolved.
What the fuck? What does that mean? Did you parse that?
I didn't understand what he just said.
Like, okay, well then the same logic could be applied to any computer program. It's
what?
The computer program itself is not conscious. The computer hardware is not conscious, yet it's able to do that. So are you saying that we didn't have to create the computer? Because it's what you're arguing here.
What?
It blows my mind.
I just facepalm, man.
Maddox, you're blowing my mind, man. You got to stop.
Yeah,
you got to knock it off, man.
They were on fire.
You're too intelligent for the likes of me.
We've got to get to the 670 billion genome.
Fine. People actually believe it.
Yeah, John, imagine if there was no evidence of a caterpillar and a butterfly, and the only evidence that we had were fossils of a caterpillar and a fossil of a butterfly, but the Bible actually described the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. They'd call us nuts.
Yeah, I would. Tell me.
They?
Yeah.
Please, describe to me in the Bible where it describes the process of metamorphosis for a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly.
Yeah, John has recently become fascinated with locusts and grasshoppers and that transformation. And
yeah.
They would, because they'd be like, well, there's no connection, we see these two separate, entities or whatever. And yeah, no, that's actually a great
that's
point.
One of the things that
that's a fair point. We wouldn't know that one metamorphosized into another unless we knew about metamorphosis.
Yeah, and this is why Jackson's chameleons are triceratops.
Yeah.
Hold on. Did Shadow just say they had different genomes? That a caterpillar and a butterfly have different genomes?
See, really gets me about
these or whatever. Well, there's no connection, we see these two separate, entities or whatever. And yeah, no, that's actually a great
that's
point.
One of the things that really gets me about.
Didn't say that. So
I thought you did.
Yeah, but Maddox kind of implies that in his locust and grasshopper thing. He's talking about, it's the same genome. How does it know, to be a locust or a grasshopper? And he goes on with Cell about it. He's quite fascinated with that one. He said there have been no papers done on locusts since 2010. I was going to fact check him on that, but I haven't had a chance yet.
So many of the evolutionary arguments of the fossil record and such. I'm like, we have no context, people. Zero.
What the fuck is
zero?
Zero. Per your own.
He loves the word context. He has certain words that he just loves.
Own timeline. This happened 65 million years ago, 400 million years, whatever the timeline is. Per your own argument, humans didn't exist. Therefore, we have zero observation. Therefore, every conclusion you're making is supposition based on your worldview.
He just did a Hovend. He just committed a Kent Hovend.
Maddox,
the most recent.
If I'm an investigator to a crime scene, and I don't know how this person died, but I notice there's blood. There appears to be a knife in this person's chest. I wasn't there, but let me conclude that the person was probably stabbed to death. And that, better yet, I can obtain fingerprints from the person who allegedly committed this crime. Is that just supposition? Is that really the argumentation we're going around? That because humans weren't around when these events happened, we can't understand the past state of the world and what its biosystems were doing? Is that the argument he's making right now?
Yep. Well, he's making a Kent Hovend argument. We weren't there to observe it, which is precisely the point. I mean, they expect us to tell them exactly how evolution happened, and it did happen millions of years ago. So he's kind of undermining his own criticism.
Period. There is no other way around it. Now, you can come up with an interesting argument. It may be sound, it may not be sound, but that doesn't change the fact that you are claiming that what your argument is 100% true when you have zero context.
When have we ever claimed that we 100% know?
That's Maddox. Please give me a citation where any scientific paper, and it has to be a scientific paper, that is asserting we know 100% certainly that this event this event occurred. I don't think you'll find that, because that's not the way that scientists talk about things.
But on the other hand, they believe they know 100% for sure what happened, right? So, so this is theist projection fantasy land. We got to think of we got to think of a term for it.
Period. There is no way around this. And when you look at morphology and and you guys have heard me talk about this, SFT's talked about, a lot of people talk about this, but just with dogs, I'm like, let's do a comparison of 10 different breeds of dogs and the shape of their skulls.
Yes.
They can be so dynamically different.
Right.
But they're still dogs. This obviously means the capacity for cranial differences exist inside of dogs.
That was cool. Dog skulls very inside of dogs. God.
Okay.
I think he's going to pull epigenesis on us, or epigenetics.
Okay.
Therefore, it's logical to conclude this can also occur in other forms of animals. Oh wait, we've observed that too. But beyond that, when we know that some dynamic differences can occur inside of just this one species, why do you conclude that skulls that kind of look like human but they still look like monkey are they're the transitional forms that led from
exactly?
Why do we conclude that? I don't know. It's not like people who have studied forensics for a long ass time can tell the difference between, say, between an ape skeleton and a human skeleton. It's not like that there's different characteristic marks and striations in the teeth that can tell you how to differentiate these things. It's not like people actually study human skeletons, in human anatomy and morphology for a living, that can actually tell us how to differentiate this thing from another thing, right, Maddox? What?
Yeah. And also, we know that morphology can change over time. We know that morphology can change a lot. Once you can show me where that change stops is when I'm going to start taking it a little bit more seriously. Dog skulls change. Yeah, our skulls have changed as well.
Listen to what he's saying. He's saying that basically if you took a Chihuahua genome and you shook it up, you could end up with a Great Dane. You could end up with a different skull, right? Because he's saying it's all inside the dog. Is that not what he's saying?
Yep.
And then they're going to this claim that Standing for Truth loves, that all these different fossils that they found are just mutated humans. But they're mutated. I mean, you have to change the genome of a Chihuahua to turn it into a damn Great Dane. I mean, it's not the same genes. And then there was a paper I found a while back. They found a gene or a mutation that caused dogs' noses to get longer. So they're longer and shorter, or whatever. It's an actual genetic mutation that controls that. It's not epigenesis. It's not built into every dog.
You know what's really interesting? You know why Siamese cats are lighter, closer to their body, whereas their distal ends are darker? It's because their coloration proteins, there was a mutation in their coloration protein that makes it more susceptible to heat. So whatever, I think the melanin, whatever pigment that they have that's closer to their body where it's warmer breaks down, whereas it stays colored on the ends, on their hands and feet and face. That's just a little interesting fact about.
And that was a mutation?
Yeah, it was a mutation that made it more susceptible to heat.
I have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a good one. Yeah, there's. I mean, all of this breeding that we did with dogs, we selected for certain mutations, and it made morphological changes that were pretty significant. We saw it in our own time. We observed this, so we have seen that kind of evolution happen. Where are we here? Dogs skulls very inside dog. Okay, George is coming up now. He's going to say something. I think I'm not sure if it's this video or another, but I think this might be it.
if you want to follow that logic, then it's more likely that the dogs should be evidence, right? Of
yeah.
what? But we're still arguing. We're not arguing that they're not still dogs.
John,
Right.
even if
That's
we
not
give
how
them
phylogeny works.
duplication and mutations as the reason why we get new anatomical structures, etc., 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 you'd expect the genome to be increasing in size because, after all, it's a duplication of existing genes that are now mutated. Now, if you look at their phylogenetic tree and you follow it down to the root system, they point to a some kind of protista, amoeba / whatever. They call it a luga. But when you look at the genome size of a protista, for example.
Okay.
I don't know what these terms mean. You don't know what those terms mean. Evolutionists don't know what these terms mean. Let me just call it whatever because it suits my narrative.
Okay. He makes a really startling point here. Where is it?
It's 670 billion base pairs, and its close cousin, the amoeba, is, I think, 290 billion base pairs. If we evolved from those quote-unquote simple organisms, and duplication via mutations is the reason why we have anatomical structures, why is the human genome only 3.2 billion base pairs? You'd expect it to go the other way.
Okay. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yep.
That was cool.
It's wonderful.
Quote unquote simple organisms, and duplication via mutations is the reason why we have anatomical structures. Why is the human genome only 3.2 billion base pairs?
It should
You'd
be
expect it to go the other way.
600 trillion base pairs.
Well, especially given the fact that they claim that the vast majority of those 3 billion base pairs is junk.
Yeah, correct. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's
well, you know, it's funny too because I know like the least amount of genetics probably out all you guys, and all I ever
that's a low bar.
You say that we came from a single cell, minus this eukaryote and whatever they say, because they will agree to a single cell. So whenever they try to branch off,
I don't know.
It doesn't really make any sense. They agree that we come from a single cell. How come we don't all look the same? It doesn't actually make any sense.
God.
Oh, that's the last Gemma. Why don't we all look the same if we evolved from the same cell? You heard it here, guys.
Holy freaking crap.
This is like I say, this is Shadow Dancer's greatest hits. This video actually is it's just like
I mean, it's a
yeah.
I mean, it's a
well, you know, it's funny too because I know like the least amount of genetics probably out all you guys, and all I ever ask evolutionists is like, you say that we came from a single cell, minus this eukaryote and whatever they say, because they will agree to a single cell. So whenever they try to branch off into these 3 different cells, it doesn't really make any sense. They agree that we come from a single cell.
It doesn't. Oh man,
how come we don't all look the same? It doesn't actually make any sense. You know, we should all have similar capabilities, and we should be seen if we evolved from these monkeys to eating meat, somehow creating fire and the wheel and all that kind of stuff. We should see other animals.
What the fuck
is she? Hold on.
How did she go there? How did she get to meat and fire from single?
So let me get it straight. It's not important for me to understand the difference between protista, or not protista, archaea, eukarya, and prokaryotes, because they're all similar, so they're probably the same, and they're just trying to fool us. But in the same sense, I don't think that monkeys ate meat, even though we've seen them eat meat before. And we should all look the same for some reason, because eukaryotic organisms can't have slight variations in expression of some gene, or be exposed to slightly different environments that would cause phenotypic differences to arise. No, that doesn't make sense at all.
you can't prove that the single-celled monkeys with big genomes made fire and ate meat. All right.
Yeah. I know. I know. I've never seen a single-celled monkey before. Therefore, they don't exist.
Okay, guys, but here's the thing. Okay, look at the time. 1:39. There's 4:57 is where this ends. I know they spend a couple hours on feminism here in the end, but I mean, I stopped. I got tired and I quit bookmarking at this point. So now the rest of this is uncharted territory. I have no fucking idea what's going to pop up next. I mean, it could be like, it could even get better. I don't know. It could, it could get boring. We don't know. It's just a mystery because I got tired after an hour and 39 minutes. Oh my God. This is just, I mean, these are the people that are debating PhD scientists on modern day debate. What? And this is how they really think. You don't get this shit in their standard spiel that they do, on modern day debate and for the public and on their how-to videos that they do. You get it when you listen to these live streams. I think after we cut them down like this, we're probably going to stop doing it or not let us listen anymore. Also, John Maddox has a pair. Somebody, it says, no, I'm not going to say John Maddox has been deleting my comments, but in my comment history, it said deleted by the producer or by the. Yeah. So I got a feeling that a lot of my comments, unfortunately for John, Google gives you the history of all your comments that you've ever done, whether they're deleted or not.
Looks like a beta might be getting triggered.
Because the one where I kept asking for mRNA papers that started the whole war between me and him, that he deleted that one. Or is it, no, I'm not saying John did, but it said the provider deleted it or the producer or whatever the hell.
Oh, so, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I am working on working on putting together a video on miRNA, which will explain that whole story. I talked to you, Walker, about it today.
Okay.
The whole story. I think it's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
That really needs to be publicly addressed, basically, because it's a pattern with them. It's the same pattern all the time. It's where they get all of their ideas. It's how they develop their ideas. And then their ideas become fixed in their minds, and then you hear about them in debates. So it's just incredible. So I don't know. You want to abandon this one for now? Maybe I'll do some more bookmarks, or do you want to go into Uncharted?
Yeah, may as well.
Okay. There's let's see here. We got pathways. Okay. So well, this is where he starts talking about RNA, and this is what really pissed me off. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sharing that one, am I? Okay, where's my producer? Why didn't my producer stop me? Stop me.
I'm not responsible for you.
We talked about this.
No, we didn't.
It's your turn to watch me.
I don't know you.
You do too. You know me pretty damn well. You know me too well. You know me too well.
Really?
I told you some stories.
I know.
You want to talk about lizard sex?
What?
Lizard sex?
I don't know. Have you ever seen lizards having sex?
No, but you did.
How do you know that?
Because you told me you did today.
Well, it's kind of a rare thing in Florida, okay?
It is. But you do understand they do have sex.
They do have sex.
Okay, your dad told your dad had this talk with you.
I don't know why they have sex, but they have sex.
But they were doing it like right on the sidewalk?
They were. I
would give anything to have lizard sex in Minnesota. I mean, right on the sidewalk. I mean, it would be cool to just, we got turkeys and we got coyotes and raccoons, but I've never seen lizards do it. I was feeding my raccoons.
Talking about lizard sex.
What? He called me today, and he basically came upon two lizards going at it in Florida, which is kind of what I've always thought about Florida.
It was just one of those things where it was like I was walking, and I was like, huh, that's weird. That lizard looks kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder what it's doing. Oh. There's two lizards. Oh, Those two lizards are on top of each other. Those two lizards are probably having sex with each other.
Oh, shit. We just got demonetized. Talking about lizard sex. I was feeding all these raccoons, and I had like 20 of them at one point. And then I looked out one night, and there were 2 of them having sex. And I'm thinking, you little bastards, if you multiply...
Oh,
I have little babies out there now. They're just the cutest things. They come running up to me, and then they look at me, and they, oh no, and they run back, and then they peek up over the railroad ties. You know, they're our retaining wall. It's really cool, pretty awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to play a little bit of this arrogance.
I'm assuming that you're unaware of the fact that phylogeny is collapsing now that additional variables such as the phylogeny of microRNAs are coming into the equation and showing polar opposites to what had been proven beyond all doubt by the evolutionary community to be true.
Beyond all doubt.
Yeah,
you will never find people that says that.
There's a few things to unpack there. First of all, he's talking to this guy who is making an argument about religion, and he was not prepared to have a genetics discussion. And then he asked him, I suppose you're unaware of microRNA, like these dudes are supposed to be up on the, even though they never portrayed themselves as geneticists or scientists or anything like that. They're supposed to be up on the current research that John just found. And this is why I'm going to do a video on this whole expose. But the other thing is phylogeny, which they've said is proven beyond a doubt. When did we ever say that?
I don't think I've read a paper that says that, but apparently John has, or thinks he has.
Yep. Anyway, Walker, you know that presentation you did today on Vandalia 1998?
Yeah.
Do you have do we have like fairly decent trees, phylogenies for all of those things you were talking about?
Oh God, yeah, yeah, we do.
Do you have pictures?
I don't have them super in order. I can send you an email with the Google Slides presentation that I used, and most of it's chronological. So,
okay, yeah, I'd be interested in at least having that as a reference because I want to get into my fins to limb stack at some point, and I would like to have a guideline because I'm kind of I suck at paleontology and I suck at phylogeny, and I need to get better. But I want to kind of get through this. Basically, I want to look at the embryology of limb development and try to make as much sense of it as I can. So anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting how most of the macroevolutionary changes that they claim couldn't have happened are actually pretty well understood.
Yeah, very well understood.
The sea to land transition, the reptile to mammal transition, these are like very well studied. And just because, you know, some guy off the street doesn't know that much about him doesn't mean like a fish paleontologist doesn't know about him. I'm sure if you had a conversation with Neil Shubin, like,
yeah,
you'd change your mind on it. By the way, I sent you the slideshow and an email.
Okay, good. And like Smokey was telling me today that neuroscience is like the newest of sciences, and we know nothing about the brain. And I was reeling. Like I have 16 feet of neuroscience books, and I was telling Immutable today, I have 500 to 900 page volumes on the basal ganglia alone, and I have 2 volumes on the thalamus, which amount to about 2,000 pages. And he says we know nothing about the brain, and it's like, I mean, cognitive neuroscience is very advanced, and we have the connectome now. We know the pathways that run every which way across the brain, and we're micro mapping the entire thing. We know enough about the brain right now to make very solid predictions about how we think. But the public has not caught up yet, apparently, particularly Smokey. So anyway, I'm not sure what else I got. There's another miRNA piece that John did with Cell. There's more that mRNA. And what else we got? Oh, there's a Standing for Truth stuff. We got to go over that at some point. I did this hangout with Standing for Truth, and he was trying to explain extended bottlenecks to me. And he was just very confused about. He insists that humans had this like extended bottleneck when they came out of Africa, and I don't. And I couldn't find anything about it being extended, other than that, we had that ice age problem that happened, and we had a few other things that knocked us back. A few plagues, but there was no real serious bottleneck. There was no reason why when we came out of Africa as anywhere between 2 to 100,000 individuals that there was any sort of genetic problem or extended bottleneck. But then he goes on about, it's just incredible the way he portrays it. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that at some point.
The extended versus short bottleneck.
Yeah. So do you know anything about an extended bottleneck? Like we looked for papers in excuse me.
Very good.
Mutable and I both looked for papers on extended bottleneck, and we both came up with the same paper independently, and it was about the Inuit. And they have a bottleneck population of right now, well, I don't know, there are 186,000 of them right now. But apparently extended bottleneck, the only paper that comes up is for the Inuit.
Well, I'm still trying to fathom what the difference is between an extended and a short-term bottleneck. I guess an extended population bottleneck would have like more inbreeding and have like an accumulation of deleterious mutation. But still, a short-term bottleneck, you're cutting off, like, I guess in the case of Noah's flood, you're cutting off like the amount of alleles from hopefully thousands to like what, 8 total? Yeah, 8. Possible?
16 possible. And that's only if you're lucky enough not to have any homozygosity.
Yeah.
Which, there's no guarantee of that. So but he insists that they were fruitful and they multiplied like crazy.
Well, they're still objectively going to have an accumulation of mutations. I don't get. I guess you're not going to have fixation, but you're still trimming like the amount of options that you have in the first place, which is one of the biggest problems with bottlenecks, because you get rid of biodiversity.
Right. I came up with a let's see, it's not popping up. Oh, there it is. So I was going basically we could play that little clip, but I got to stop sharing this screen and I got to share another screen. Anyway, this is apparently what Standing for Truth is talking about after the ark. This is basically the only. This represents what he thinks happened because they had a 1 generation bottleneck, and then in the 2nd generation they had all of these bunnies, and you know what these bunnies are thinking right now. You know what they're up to. So I don't know. That was the only picture I could find to represent what he's talking about. He thinks they multiplied like rabbits for some reason. Like they had no bottleneck at all. They came from 8 and suddenly they were thousands. And I let's listen to this thing.
Here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you mentioned this, but he thinks the bottleneck can last thousands of generations. And he thinks the Earth is only 6,000 years old.
Yeah, that's the other problem.
Something I've always wondered, like, if they put 1/10 of their critical thinking skills that they like try to use against evolution towards evaluating their own flood model and stuff.
Yeah.
I literally don't think they can critically evaluate it. Like, because it doesn't stand up to the flimsiest of criticism.
I think part of what that is though too is that, and I'm not calling it like a cult behavior or anything like that, but I think what it is, it's that, the reward for them, right? Because think about it. What reward do they have, like, for fighting this battle? Well, an eternity in paradise, according to their model, and to live out eternity with their creator.
Right.
Yeah, but isn't even like the own determining factor, you know, according to Christian theology, is belief in Christ, right? Like if you believe in Christ, if you accept Christ as your savior, you're going to heaven. It doesn't matter what your like physical beliefs are, I think. So at that point, why can't you analyze the physical world?
Yeah, it's the really odd contention for me kind of is like, okay, if you accept already like that Christ died for you and, you know, the whole 9 yards with that, you know, the very core of theology on that matter, why do you care about young Earth? Why are you so hyper-focused on, you know, whether or not the Earth is 6,000 years old or 4.2 billion years old?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of having this kind of fight with atheists?
Ian Chen makes a good point that they never talk about the animals, which only had 2. So they could only have 4 alleles for every animal. So the bottleneck, like Standing for Truth makes the point that we don't have to worry about animal speciation because God made thousands of elephants and thousands of cows.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is that according to his model,
took care of that. What?
It doesn't make sense though, because you can't pack thousands of like genetic diversity into 2 individuals.
Yeah, because like Standing for Truth forgot about the ark when he was talking about it. I have that video somewhere, and I have a bookmark on that, but I didn't get it prepared, so I can't find it. But anyway, he was saying we don't have a problem because God made thousands of animals, and they had a lot of genetic diversity, but he totally forgot about the ark.
Well,
yeah,
okay.
It's just.
I was just gonna say, yeah. You know, I keep sort of teasing this video I've been working on and off for, but my next video is going to be on Proboscidea and phylogeny because they consider all of the entire order Proboscidea a single created kind, which means you're going to have Erytherium or something like it on the ark, which was basically a wiener size, like a wiener dog size, you know, sausage looking thing, diversifying into mammoths and mastodons, which are on polar opposites of the spectrum, in like 700 years because they have to die out by the end of the Ice Age. So you have to get to a population of millions on multiple different species, and also you have to speciate faster than their generation times, and it's crazy. Like you can't have Erytherium on the ark. You just can't.
You know, in what other context would this be logical, plausible, or probable?
Yeah, I know. God, you're scaring me now.
I'm turning into John. I'm turning into John.
Who taught lizards how to have sex?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna play this little clip here by Standing. Just listen to his confusion,
as well as the Tower of Babel. When it comes to like the evolutionary out of Africa bottleneck, you've got. I get conflicting answers because you know what, which is understandable because how can you know exactly how much? But I've heard 2,000, 10,000 roughly was the bottleneck. But it wasn't like this 2 to 10,000 in the very next generation or the next even 100 generations experience rapid and exponential growth where you've got 100,000, now you got 500,000. They stay between 2 and 10,000 for hundreds, maybe thousands of generations.
What the hell is he talking about? What is the evidence for that?
I really don't know.
Yeah, that's a part that I'd never heard of, and I don't know. For a while, I thought maybe you thought they didn't like sex after they came out of Africa. I don't know, but
no, I'm sure they enjoyed it. Well, okay, let me ask you then, because that's another question I find I don't really get a straight answer from, and I've searched heavily. How many generations was the bottleneck? You got
right, and I searched for, and we don't know. And there was no goddamn bottleneck when they came out of Africa. I mean, there were small tribes, but tribes of 100 are perfect breeding populations. They mix with Neanderthals, with each other. There was no bottleneck after that. And the African bottleneck wasn't really a bottleneck because thousands of people crossed over. So,
does he have any papers about the out of Africa bottleneck?
He referenced a book which I dug up today. It's called what the hell is it here? It's called Adam and the Genome. But I looked through this and I can't find anything about an extended bottleneck. And no, he doesn't have any papers on it. And there aren't really a whole. Well, we got to search Google Scholar and find out what they know about that part of history. Basically, what is it? They don't know. We don't have a lot of information on it. But there's no reason to believe that humans didn't breed when they came out of Africa. I mean, I think he goes a little further.
A near extinction event that sends the human population.
Why is it a near extinction event? There was no extinction event.
Even if the out of Africans died, there would still be a giant population in Africa.
Right. Yeah.
So they're coming from somewhere.
I don't know. Let's see. What do we got here? The 20. Ian's got another comment. 29 other bird species that should have been found. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I got to get his first thing first. Search said because there are 10,000 bird species today, there'd be an average 2 to 3 bird species hitting each year. Oh, the Galapagos finch, right? They develop different beaks. So basically, that's their go-to is the Galapagos.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So I looked up out of Africa genetic bottleneck on Google Scholar, which, gives you millions of results if you look up something that makes sense. First result, I get 5 results total. First of all, let me preface. First result, I get Y chromosome study confirms Genesis flood timeline by J.P. Tompkins in Creation Science Update.
Oh my God.
Oh my! I didn't find any actual. Nothing in Google Scholar came up out of Africa genetic bottleneck.
So they pulled this out of their butts.
I guess.
Yeah.
I love how Tompkins is the first result. That's crazy. I didn't even know ICR came up on Google Scholar. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, well, he published. Oh, really? That was from ICR?
Yeah, I clicked on the link and it brought me to ICR.
Well, I'm going to craft a pointed email message tomorrow for Google Scholar. I'm going to give them hell. What do you mean? I thought this was Google Scholar, not Kent Hovind Creation Hour or whatever. Let's see what else he says.
At the time, to between 2 and 10,000, let's say. How long did that populate? Because remember, it has to be, especially from the papers that I've read, and Francis Collins, who talks a lot about it, and Dr. Vanima in his book Adam and the Genome.
Yeah.
How long was it? Because it has to be prolonged, because they're invoking the population bottleneck to explain low human genetic diversity. They have to reduce the
no, it would have been fine. Coming basically 2 to 10,000 would have accounted for the low diversity. They don't have to project an extended bottleneck. So this is something that these guys have made up, and then they insist that it did not apply to Adam and Eve. I don't get it, or to the Ark. Idiots.
Genetic diversity, and that would happen based on generations and generations of inbreeding and mutation accumulation and things like that. So
I got him to fumble a little bit, and later on about alleles, he even fumbled more. But he insists he really owned me on this, and he won't even talk to me about it anymore. I've been begging him to come on and talk about alleles again, because the rest of what follows here is very confused. I have to do some work on it before I show it. But it's just he was clearly off his game because I was asking him questions.
What do you think? How long was it?
I don't think there was. I think the bottleneck was like for each tribe that came across, like they probably came across in groups of from 20 to 100. They had a great deal of You wouldn't call that incest, but there, that was a viable breeding population. But I'm sure that they had, when they crossed over into an area where there was game, where there was basically they could populate very quickly, and I think they each spread out in their own tribes, in their own. I don't know. Anyway, I think we get into alleles after this, but I'll do some work on it before we get to it. But don't want to listen to myself.
Right. I did some more digging about out of Africa bottleneck. I can't find anything about an out of Africa bottleneck. Right. They talk about. I found a paper about the expansion was accompanied by a continued loss of genetic diversity as a result of what's called the serial founder effect, but it still doesn't describe it as a bottleneck.
Right.
Right. You're losing genetic diversity because you have smaller populations coming out, but you're not having the effects of a bottleneck where you have inbreeding and like fixation of deleterious mutation.
Right. And it certainly wasn't an extinction event. And besides that, I think the theory is now that other populations came out of Africa earlier and went to Asia and the Neanderthals, and so there was probably more than one efflux. So I just don't. He's very desperate with this one, and when you question him on it, he tends to get off his game a little bit. I think he was off his game in this. Pretty amazing. So I don't know what else I got here. Oh yeah, I was going to show something. I have something. I think I have to turn my video on. Let's see. Start cam. Okay. I just wanted to mention this because last night I got bugs. I got a pile of bugs.
Like a technology kit thing?
What's that?
Oh, never mind.
Oh, I catch them in a plastic bag. I'm going to go catch more tonight. But anyway, I was going through these bugs and I just perused them under my stereo microscope. And these little tiny ones, I found one that had wings. It was green. It was green, very, very tiny. The size of like, something like that. So very tiny. Can't see with naked eye. But right behind its wings, it had two stalks coming up with round spheres on them. And I don't have my camera hooked up to this computer yet, so I couldn't photograph it. But anyway, that little beast back there is where I look at those things. So this is quite fun. So, and then I've got what I do is I take clay and oh no, shit! I just killed the bug. I just grabbed it. Anyway, I have clay and I put slides on the bottom of it, and that little bug is on there. He's right there by my thumb, and he has stalks on his back, and it's pretty incredible. So I'm trying to find others like it. But looking through these bugs, I find the most incredible diversity in forms, and it's just unbelievable. And I wonder how many of these insects have not even been documented.
Who knows?
I mean, yeah, it's just, but I mean, that's what we should be talking about with these guys with evolution is bugs, because right now, I think in our woods today, there are many, many examples of de novo genes and de novo forms. So let's see. Tompkins cites himself twice, Jensen 4 times. That's good. 2 bottleneck events. Once humans left Africa. And yeah, they were talking about really. Oh, anyway. Pretty incredible. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to getting his book. No, I'm not really. Shit.
Don't lie to yourself.
Why am I doing this to myself?
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Why are you?
I mean, this takes a tremendous amount of work, and I don't know. I don't know what. Like John Maddox this week said that I never respond to him and I never criticize him, or I never present a case about why he's wrong. And it's just that he is like a smorgasbord. And I'm sitting there with my plate and I don't know where to dig in, you know? I mean,
yeah,
where to start. I don't know. I think maybe I'll take tomorrow off and think carefully about what my next move is, because I have too many moves to make. It's driving me nuts. So, anyway, guys, I think we'll wrap it up. End broadcast.
I guess so.
Okay. We are saying goodbye.
Peace out.